me, right? The woman has rights now that previously she didn't enjoy. Now we recognize very rightly that it's two-way traffic. That it's just not about the man's job, it's also about the woman's job. Not only about the man's fulfillment, but it's also about the woman's fulfillment at any given time. It's about the children, how we handle them. So this whole thing about why we work and finding meaning in work is a very modern phenomenon. If you look, say, earlier on, say even till the 19th century, it was very much, and even when you had the, okay, let's just say 19th century, it was all about, because the Industrial Revolution had not kicked in, so it was subsistence. You earn enough to keep yourself going. There's a bit of prosperity, great, you're blessed. And there was no question of looking at, I mean, apart from a few, there's always the rich in a society, the ones who are well-to-do. But most times it was finding enough, having enough to keep going, right? To keep body and soul together. Remember in the days when there were no vaccines, a plague could decimate you. You were left to the vagaries of the weather sometimes. To decide family fortunes. But in the 20th century, as women started to work between the two world wars, as factories opened up because of the wars, and more people came into the work space, that changed. As women got more control over their bodies, which means as we had contraception, and women were not just childbearing machines, but they could have a life apart from being a mother. They could also have a life outside the home. They could work, they could contribute. And within 15 years of the discovery of contraception, you found more and more women in the workplace. And that's a good thing. But and also after the Renaissance in Europe, after World War II, people began to look at themselves. It was individualism. Miss Sophia? Miss Sophia Bade, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, when did Frida Kahlo start her self-portraits? Do you know in which age, which years approximately?
I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. So Frida Kahlo was a celebrated painter, I only took Frida Kahlo because she's a well-known painter. She started the self-portrait, right? Not started, she might have been one of those that made it famous. I'm not the art historian, but I know, things like the self-portrait came into place. People began to write autobiographies. People began to keep journals. People began to write diaries. People began to have a personal seal, which before was not there. Why? The whole thing of individualism wasn't a concept. In the 18th century, Samuel Johnson was the one whose dictionary, who compiled. The first dictionary was by Samuel Johnson. He was a lexicographer. And in his lexicon, there is no word as fulfillment. It just doesn't exist. This thing of fulfillment is very much a modern concept, a very 20th century concept. So, and since it's there, and it's there very rightly so, because times have changed, and it is good to look at, we don't have to live in the 19th and the 18th century. For one reason, for example, the industrial model of education doesn't work. Even the industrial model of production doesn't work. More and more companies are realizing that when you look at HR practices, you can improve productivity manifold. Toyota took over I forget the name. I don't know if it was in Detroit. Toyota took over a sick American car company They never changed a single worker, but productivity went a manifold. They concentrated on processes. The resources were the same. So today we're going to talk of why we work and how will we measure our lives. Both are very interconnected. I have used 3 books for this. And remember, I do it not so much as, I do it more as a self-awareness session first, and to help us with our own children, if we have children, and to help us with our students, because a lot of us, I know some of the admin staff don't directly deal with children, but because education, they work indirectly, sometimes directly, but a lot of it might be indirectly, deals with children. So that's why we have the admin staff. So it'll be good for you to understand as well. So it's at any given point, there will be some thing in it for you, either ourselves or our own children or the students you interacted with, maybe here or elsewhere. Okay. So that's the first person that I deal with, Robert Krznaric. He is an Austrian philosopher who did a lot of work on fulfillment in work. Now, remember, I will give you this presentation. It's done. I know the last time the creativity took long. Ms. Jessica, you will ensure that this is sent as possibly today, if once I compress the file. So he's the first person who did a study on fulfilling work. Okay, what is it that helps us find fulfillment in work? Is it just money? And money is important. You look at the Lord's Prayer, right? What is the first thing that we ask for in the Our Father? So we say, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. That's an acknowledgement. And what's the first line that follows? Give us this day our daily bread. So the first thing that we ask for in the Lord's Prayer is, give us this day our daily bread. So it's okay if we talk about money as the first thing, that's fine. Let's not be too idealistic and not practical. It's important that we deal with money and get that out of the way, right? It's important. But as it also said in the other part, in another place in the Bible, man does not live by bread alone. So money doesn't become everything. Okay. What can then happen is, if you think money is everything, then you end up we could end up like this. And I once referred to this, I couldn't find this picture. I'd forgotten how I had named it. But this is how many of us could be at the workplace. Many of us, I don't mean TGS, right? I mean people in general. They bring their bones, they bring their bodies to the workplace. Sometimes they bring their bones and their bodies home, not just the workplace. But their hearts, their souls are not in it. So wherever we are, we've got to see what is it that helps us find fulfillment, which was not an 18th century concept, not a 19th century concept, very much a modern phenomenon. And a good thing to do, because as research shows, it helps us do better. It's win-win. So if we, now I won't go into the books that I refer to also say, find your career. I'm going to assume that you more or less feel you're in the right place. However, I also talk about finding. Towards the end, I'll say, how do you find, in case you find teaching, forget about TGS. If you find teaching is not for you, then what should you do? Right? Like I said, I pitch it for you as well as a person, and then for others that you may know of. So, do we work to live? Like, you know, we eat to live, isn't it? If we don't eat, then we can't survive. do we also live to work? That means while we work to survive and sustain ourselves, is the purpose of our lives only to also work? We need to work always. We've been born to do work. We have been given capabilities. We've been given mental and emotional and physical capacity so that we use it. Is there truth in both? That while we work to live, we also live to work. Without work, some of us don't have identity. We don't have a purpose. There has to be some purpose. You might be a homemaker also, that's work, right? You might be just taking care of people at home. That's work. There is a purpose. You might be looking at home, looking after aged parents, ailing parents. That's work. It's your purpose. It's not that you're not doing nothing. So do we work to live? Do we live to work? So I put this quote down. I liked it. It says, working is about the search for a daily meaning as well as daily bread, for recognition as well as cash, for astonishment rather than torpor. In short, for a sort of life rather than a Monday through Friday sort of dying. I think most of us are looking for a calling, not a job. Most of us have jobs that are too small for our spirit. Jobs are not big enough for people. Now, recall what I said in the presentation on creativity. Okay, so Miss Natanya is the first one on screen, but you weren't there. So let's ask Ms. Shagufta, because she's the first person I see on screen. Ms. Shagufta, what's the difference between job, work, and calling? Now I'm doing a cold call, Ms. Natanya, you see. Yes, Ms. Shagufta.
Job is something like a chore. You could just be doing a chore and you could get paid for it. A calling is something.
No, sorry, job, career, and calling. I said job, work, calling, but work is common to all. What is career and what is calling?
So career, job would be like, suppose I just come, I teach, I do my job and I go. Career would be, I come, I teach, and maybe I aspire to be a coordinator or a principal. A calling is something so that, I'm doing well in my career, like monetary and otherwise. And calling is something where I come with a purpose, like something which gives me a satisfaction, where I'm imparting knowledge and in the process also learning something and evolving and growing. That is what I believe. Like I take pleasure in my work. I'm not doing it just.
Yes, ma'am, you're spot on. So job. People with jobs see work as a necessity of life. They work for pay. They would switch jobs if given the chance to earn more money. They can't wait to retire. They would not encourage the children or their friends, it's children or friends, to follow in their footsteps. A career, as Mrs. Shagufta also noticed, they see their work as a career. They're more engaged. They may even enjoy their work. However, the focus is on advancement. So you say, I've got to become a coordinator. I've got to become a grade level coordinator. I've got to be a program coordinator. I've got to be a principal, vice principal, open my own creche one day. The idea is always as a path of advancement, which might lead to promotion, higher salary, and better work. It's a step up. It's a step up because it shows being driven. It's not a bad thing. However, People who see their work as a calling find it most satisfying. They are happy to do it. It is a vital part of their identity, but they believe their work makes the world a better place and would encourage others to do this kind of work. Okay, and we're going to return to parts of this during the course of this presentation. But you've got to ask yourself, do I see myself, do I have a job? Do I see myself, do I have a career? Do I have a calling? Okay. Now, when you say your work is a calling, look at that third part, look at this part. They believe their work makes the world a better place, right? Very important. Their work goes beyond themselves. I remember telling you during that lesson on creativity about the traffic policeman, or not even constable, just a traffic policeman who did his work at a crossing so enthusiastically. And he said, people asked him, like, why are you so enthused, man? I mean, like, what's great about your job? All you do is wave hands, right? Stop, move, this. And he says, nobody has died at I make sure that nobody dies at my junction. Nobody dies at my crossing. I make sure the instructions are always crisp. I keep alert, and I keep people safe. Right? So imagine a traffic policeman who saw that his work was bigger than himself. It made the world a better place. Right? I even quoted you that very, it's so commonplace to quote this, but and I'm not sure if it's not true, but I think it's been quoted enough to have some truth of meaning. When Kennedy visited NASA and asked one of the guys outside, "What are you doing?" He asked the janitor, the person who was cleaning something, and he says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, I'm part of the team that's putting the man on the moon." And he felt he was part of that team. And no matter what you do in school, do you feel that your work through TGS makes Goa a better place, makes the children of Goa better individuals? Directly or indirectly, you help to make the world a better place long term. Food for thought. Now, let's go back to the money bit. Successful people have money. True. People who do well, we say, are intelligent. So, Omkar, are intelligence. So, like this, what happens is, when A is present, B is also present. So there's a correlation, but sometimes we think that A causes B, right? People who are successful, they end up having money. So we think money brings about success. Intelligent people who do well in class, they have intelligence. So we think that only intelligent people can do well in class. But for those of us who live on islands or in farms, right? We hear the cock crow in the morning, right? And then we know it's sunrise. But did the cock cause the sun to rise? No, no. So that's correlation, but it's not a cause. It's important to distinguish, but sometimes just because two things are present at the same time, it does not mean that one causes the other. It just means that there's a correlation between the two. That, okay, intelligence and success, they are somewhere related, but one doesn't directly lead to the other. Money doesn't always lead to success, or vice versa, necessarily. Example, and just because they are feathers. So you've heard the story of Icarus and Daedalus. So let's ask another one, Miss Sophia, since you're up on my screen. Tell me about the story of Icarus. You ever heard that one? Miss Christabel? It's to do with flight.
So I never heard that story.
Anybody? Yes, Miss Lizelle, I see you nodding.
So it could, I can't remember which one was the father and which one was the son,
Icarus was
but
Icarus was a son, no?
yeah. So Daedalus was known to be a very good architect, and he was really good at what he built. He was the one who came up with the whole labyrinth, and that's a separate story. But technically, they were banished for that labyrinth, and they were put on this very high, on an island, on this very high, like a lighthouse, but like really high, and there was no way that they could get out of it. So what the father noticed was that every day the birds would fly and one or the other wings would fall off, and so he picked up all the the feathers, and he picked them up and he joined them together with wax, and he was able to make wings for both him and his son so that they could fly off, so that they could escape from that whatever tower that they were put in. However, while they were flying, they noticed, the son especially, he noticed that he sort of towered over everything, and he wanted to get higher and higher, because it's that feeling of like, oh, I'm above everything else. And the higher he went, the closer he got to the sun, and that started to melt off the wax of the wings, and eventually he fell to his, he fell and died, I think. That's as much as I remember of the story.
No, but he was also given the advice, Miss Lizelle.
Yeah, I don't
advised.
the gist that I remember of the story.
Yes,
No, he was advised not to take the height.
This is a story from Greek mythology, right? And but the point I wish to draw across is that just because one has feathers doesn't mean one can fly, right? So there are quite a few birds in Goa, but if we collected all the feathers and made birds, and even if we did on a cloudy day where there's no sun, and we tried to fly, I'm sure all of you could safely predict what would happen, right? We try to go off the roof with our man-made wings. So just because they are feathers doesn't mean that there will be flight. For example, an ostrich has wings, but no feathers. But it does well. And a flying squirrel has neither wings nor feathers, but still gets by, right? It's able to glide from one tree to another. And so again, correlation versus causes. Always remember that when you're looking at life, or when you're looking at choices for yourself or choices for your children, or talking about your students, don't assume that because one is there and the other is there, one causes the other. Okay? Always remember there might be other factors that come into play, and I will talk about those factors during the course of this presentation. So Herzberg, I'll give it's in the thing. Herzberg talks about a motivation theory. Hygiene factors are things like, there's two factors. Okay, one is the hygiene factors, things like status, compensation, job security, work conditions, company policies, and supervisory practices. Okay, you need to be sure that your job is secure. There's no hire and fire. People are given a chance to improve, unless there are issues that we can't handle. And I know, like I used to myself too. If I lose an employee, I don't absolve myself. I also ask myself, at which point did I lose it? Did I hire the wrong person in the first place? And after hiring, did I not handle the person correctly? What did I do to prevent it, right? It's part failure on it'll be partly my failure as well. I think as all teachers, we should have that as well. If a child fails, in a sense, we have failed as well, to a certain extent. Maybe not all of it, but to a certain extent, we take the blame too. So the hygiene factors like things like status, compensation, job security, work conditions, company policies, and supervisory practices. Yes. So, for example, if a company expects you to pick up your to answer WhatsApp calls at 9 o'clock at night, and to answer mails on the weekend, and to work make you work from 9 to 5, then expect you to do all your lesson plans at home, right? Give you only 2 free periods a day, and then they tell you, expect you to correct all the notebooks at home. Example. You've barely recovered from illness, and they say, now get back to work. Okay, illness is raging all around, and we say, no problem, come to work, stay away, keep social distancing and carry on, whatever. So all these things are important. Compensation becomes a hygiene factor, not a motivator. If you instantly improve, I put this down because I love the last line. If you instantly improve the hygiene factors of your job, you're not going to suddenly love it. Just because someone increases compensation or suddenly makes you a coordinator or suddenly makes you or gives you a rank, doesn't mean you're going to love your job. At best, you won't hate it anymore. The opposite of job satisfaction is not job dissatisfaction, but the absence of job dissatisfaction. Okay? So, remember, the vice versa also. The opposite of, if you're dissatisfied at your job, with your job, if suddenly you get extra pay, it won't mean that you're now satisfied in your job. It means that you won't be now dissatisfied. You won't love your job, but you won't hate it either. Right? That's the important thing. So what's the motivation? Challenging work, recognition, responsibility, and personal growth. Feelings that you're making a meaningful contribution to work arise from intrinsic conditions of the work itself. Motivation is less about external prodding and more to do with what is inside you and inside your work. Again, important. Remember, feelings that you're making a meaningful contribution to work arise from intrinsic conditions of the work. So one is to do with the work itself, right? What is the nature of work we do? That's why whenever we do work, we say, okay, I'll get that answer from you. Motivation is less about external prodding and more to do with what is inside you and inside your work. Okay, let's stop. Let's do another cold call. Miss Shikha, how could I apply that last paragraph to kids and ourselves and our work as teachers? I'm going to share screen again. Can you tell me about this last? Feelings that you're making right from there to inside your work. How does it apply? Apply it now to teachers and with children.
As in, like, when we are teaching, I don't know if I'm coming to the right point.
Don't apologize. This is not, I mean, you don't have to say, I think like this. Always just say, this is what I believe. This is my interpretation of it. I may not be, no, of course, you may or may not be. No one's.
Yes, so I feel what I have to teach the children, it is reaching them and they are able to follow. And the emotions that I'm going through, if I'm feeling joyful, so I'm able to connect with the children and they also get into that same emotion. Is it?
How do, okay, now when you're talking of kids in the class, let's talk of the kids' feelings. Now the feelings that you are making, now make that the kids' feelings. What are the implications then for us and for the kids? If the feelings are the children's feelings, when they come to school or when they enter your class, I know you're looking at 3-year-olds, but let's say you've also been in school when you were 8-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, right? So think even bigger kids, maybe if you think they're too small, think of even bigger kids. Feelings that you're making a meaningful contribution to work arise from intrinsic conditions of the work itself. And the next line. So tell me how that applies to the children also and our work as teachers. Do you get my question?
Yes, sir. Like when children also coming to school, are they really excited to be
Correct.
in school?
Correct.
Or they have some drive or motivation of coming to school every day? There are many children who don't, even though if they are not keeping well, they still don't want to take leave and stay at home.
Correct. Can you add to that? Let's ask Ms. Let's ask.
Ms. Shivangi has raised her hand. Sorry.
I'll do cold call. Let's ask Ms. Joanne. I see Ms. Joanne on screen.
Yes, sir.
Just go ahead.
You mean explain Ms. Shika's point?
You can add to it or you can give your own interpretation.
Okay. What I got from it is basically if you love your job or you're motivated towards your job, and you come, I'm just saying, if you just drag yourself to work, you're not quite happy to be there. The kid sees that, the child sees that, and automatically they aren't happy to be in that place. But if you are, if you love your work, or you come, I'm not quite sure if I'm on the right along the right lines, but
never be apologetic. I notice this is very common among us. Huh? See, I don't know if I get it right. It's okay. You have, if that's what you feel, it's your interpretation. No one's going to fault you for it.
yes. So basically, if the kid sees you happy and sees that I'm not getting the right word though, but just sees that what's the word? Oh, just sees the motivation from the teacher's end, the kid could, or I think would develop, they would like the subject or they would like coming to school. Yeah, that's what I gathered from it.
Okay, no, you're not wrong. Let's have Miss, is Mr. Jurish there? Let's have someone from midlife.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jurish, go on, add to it.
So I could add my thoughts.
If it's the children's feelings, what would it imply?
I believe, can you please repeat that, sir?
Just if okay, I'm going to go. Motivation factor, feelings that the children's feelings that they are making a meaningful contribution to work arise from intrinsic conditions of the work itself.
So you want to talk about the children?
Class, we're talking of their feelings, right? I am also saying, so you could do what Ms. Joanne is saying, where it's your own feelings, but I am asking also, which is correct, motivation is less about external prodding and more to do with what is inside you and inside your work.
Okay, so because this is relating to work, I don't know if I can make a correlation to the children. But as far as I think when we studied about it,
school, because sometimes we tend to be judgmental as well, right?
Okay. So could you add to that just a little? What would you like me to
add? You tell me.
Okay, then, sir.
Okay. If you can't get one, you tell me your thoughts on it.
Okay, my thoughts, sir. Well, when we studied this, I believe this is proposed by Herzberg.
Yes, Herzberg, yes.
Whenever we did any theory, we actually started by looking at, not started, but we ended by looking at what the drawbacks of the theory were. And with the two-factor theory, you do see a lot of similarities to Maslow's hierarchy. So you look at the hygiene factors, they are the lower order needs that one would be able to need to fulfill before you move on to the higher order needs, which are the motivation factors. So that was the first thing that came to my head, is that it's too dichotomous to look at it as either or. And if it had stages to it, or it was maybe a little more thought out, it would be applied better, because at the end of the day, we do need to keep in mind that it is a theory and it is not established as fact. So these were thoughts that were running through my mind, sir.
No, so let's assume that he is not doing an either or, right?
Okay.
For the purpose of this, and I don't think it's meant to be an either or, that the hygiene is important as well as the motivation factor. Now, I do have questions that ask me, sorry, I got to go back to this. The question is, now I remember what newness am I bringing? Are they looking forward to join? So yes, so if the intrinsic nature of the work, I asked about children's feelings only so that we can think about it. When they don't enjoy it, do we blame them, or do I say, what is the intrinsic, what am I asking them to learn? Have I made it interesting to them? Have I made it relevant to them? Have I tried to make them see why they should learn it? Have I tried to make it like how they say in the early years, if they haven't learned the way you teach them, teach the way they learn, right? So how do I make the work intrinsically interesting?
By involving them in the process, perhaps?
Yes.
That would be one. And once again, it says challenging work, and we do this at TGS, is we practice.
Yes, I'm not saying it was meant to be a rhetorical question. So I'm just saying that the way we could also look at it is when children are not, when they're not motivated, look at the intrinsic nature of the work itself. Do I make it? And I know at TGS we do it differently, but you just have to remember how as children, we just did mechanically. We were told to do what we were supposed to do, and we just went ahead and did it, right? So the other question, and why we introduce life skills, like I'll go to the second part for children. It's not always that you can do what you like. Life is not always about doing what you like, and if it appeals to you, then you will do it. Sometimes you just do something because it's important to do it. You may not see the value, but all through your life, you cannot indulge yourself and say, I will only do something if I like it, if I choose to do. It doesn't work that way. It won't even work with our own children. We need not give our children that much autonomy, right? Sometimes it is good to say you will learn it later. So example, we start off with just eating. I mean, I may try to explain that my child needs to eat a balanced diet. He needs to eat that palak. He needs to do this. He needs to go for the morning walk. He needs to have a good, and they may not see it, right? But you still make them do it because later on they will thank you for it. So when they say it's also not only about the work itself, but it's also about who you are, right? So for the teacher, it's what attitude you bring to your profession, to your calling, and I'll come to that later on in this presentation. The other thing is also looking at the nature of the work I do. Okay, someone's asked, why is it called a hygiene factor? Mr. Judish, you want to comment on that?
Sir, I don't remember the exact reason as to why it was called a hygiene factor, but I think it was because all of these contribute to the general environment. Yeah, which is your immediate physical environment, and that's the reason why it was labeled as a hygiene factor.
Okay, and I asked you because I don't know myself why specifically he chose it as hygiene. Maybe he just wanted a word that clubbed it all together. When we talk about the hygiene of a place, like how we talk about the practices of a place, so the things that make you happy, as Mr. Nath was saying, talking about the environment or the things that help to, the external factors that help to contribute, whereas the motivation factor is more internal. Okay. With the same happiness that I take to class, do my kids feel the same to be a part of it? Correct. It's okay. Now, someone said, so it's like, why am I going to show this video is people. So they did a study at universities. You know, these people that they hire to, call up Mr. Gates, call up Warren Buffett, call up Anil Ambani and Mukesh Ambani and say, sir, your old school needs some money. We are planning this, we are planning that. Can you help out? Or, go through in the entire alumni and say, can you donate some money? We are wanting to do this, we are wanting to do that. People, the same workers, used to feel embarrassed asking for money. One day, the people who were doing the study, they actually brought, money is given for scholarships, etc. The people who were making the calls, they had a meeting with children who benefited from the scholarships, right? Who benefited from the facilities that were provided. And then they were told stories about, I thought I'd never be able to make it through college. It was my parents' dream, this, that, and today I'm this only because of Harvard or Stanford or Yale or whatever, and all thanks to you. You helped me get a scholarship. and I'm doing so well in life, and I've been able to do so much for myself and my family, and it went on. And suddenly they found that those same people, now when they went back to their work, they made far more calls to everybody in an hour, in a day, and they got more funds. Because suddenly now they saw the value of their work. They saw the difference that their work made. They saw that their work had a purpose. It was something larger than themselves. And that's one of the things that they always talk of motivation. If you can find something that's a little, in a sense, bigger than yourself, it goes beyond you. You make a difference, right? So what I've done today is I'm putting together 2 videos. Now, obviously, I know we have 45, 40, 48, 40, 50 staff. All will not be mentioned here. I took it, one is because of brevity, one is because of it was very crisp. So the others who are not mentioned, remember, I could not have all your children speak, right? And students speak. But just know that all that you do makes a huge difference. Now, not always do we hear it, right? Not always do we believe it. Maybe we're too shy. Maybe we don't seek praise. Maybe our maybe our parents don't thank us enough. Maybe our students don't thank us enough. Anyway, I thought I'll put together some, I requested Ms. Jessica, because she handles social media, to put together some, and we've put together a few testimonials to see what a difference you make.
Hi everyone, I'm Gera from class 2B, and that's my dad. I love my new school, the Gera school, because it is fun learning here with all the other extracurricular activities. My teachers here are very loving and caring, so I eagerly look forward to attend my classes every day. Thank you.
We have seen a vast difference in Wade since he started schooling with TGS. May it be in his academics or in his behavior. We appreciate all the effort put in by the team TGS towards my kid during this pandemics. I am rest assured that my child is under a right guidance, and thank you team TGS for putting all the efforts towards Wade. Thank you.
I can know how the teaching at the school was. It was superb. All the teachers were great, and I wouldn't say that a year has been lost, because they have learned a lot in this 1 year. Even my son is in LKG. He had so many new concepts to learn, and all the sounds of the alphabets and everything that he has learned in this 1 year. So all I can say about Gera school is they are doing really well. The teachers are very well trained. They are doing a fantastic job even online. So once the school begins, I definitely know that my kids are in safe hands, because I have had the first-hand experience of looking at the kids and the teachers, the way they are managing at the school, the events that they did, the annual day, and everything else that they managed online was also very, very good. Even in LKG, being in LKG, there were experiments which teachers did in the class. They asked us to keep the materials ready. So all in all, they are doing a very good job, and I'm very happy with this school. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. It's been 2 years now since Ms. Shabina is teaching my daughter Hindi. I'm glad to see the differences in the way my daughter is reading and writing her Hindi. Mrs. Shabina has taken great efforts and helped Suha in her unique way of teaching Hindi. Thank you, Mrs. Shabina. You are an incredible teacher.
In an interesting and a fun and enjoyable way. In GP, Global Perspectives, we discussed different topics and current situations and different events that were going on around the world. And because of the name, Global Perspectives, we looked at thousands of different perspectives of any certain event, so that we did not have a biased opinion of that event. In our GP classes, we used to learn from online resources. We were given a topic and we had to do research on it, which helped us to understand any topics or anything that was taught in class at a much more personal and detailed level, which made it very much easy to understand. Mr. Jurish, who is our geography and global perspectives teacher, he always encourages us to ask him thousands of questions, and he always patiently answers them.
Thank you, Mr. Zen, for being available for Omkar to solve his difficulties, may it be in English or history, by giving him feedbacks through emails and also giving him extra time after school hours to solve or overcome his difficulties in English and history. Also, I never thought that history could be so interesting and could be taught to students in the form of a beautiful story. This has helped Omkar to improvise in both these subjects, English and history, and all the credit goes to you. Thank you once again.
When we first met the principal of the school, we were told that the school was introducing a subject called global perspective. Frankly speaking, we did not have any idea about the subject. Later on, when Mr. Jurishnath started teaching the subject global perspective, I realized that he had made the subject very, very interesting. He ensured that the students do a lot of research on the subject, and I personally feel that this has enhanced Omkar's skills in research. As far as geography is concerned, I just love the way Mr. Jurish has taught maps and contours in a very, very simple and innovative method, in a very simple and innovative way to the students. I must say that, since Mr. Jurish is a very calm and composed teacher, it is very, very easy for students like Omkar to interact with him very easily. Mr. Jurishnath is an very excellent teacher, and I must say that we are very much benefited with his teachings. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi everyone.
Hello. So I wanted to share something very nice. Hello. So I wanted to share something very nice with you all today. When we talk about teachers in school, most common thing is yes, they teach our kids.
Sorry, why is it not?
Kids, they learn science, maths, English, history, biology from like teachers. That's what they do. Hello. So I wanted to share something very nice with you. Hello. So I wanted to share something very nice with you all today. When we talk about teachers in school, most common thing is yes, they teach our kids, they learn science, maths, English, history, biology from like teachers. That's what they do. But what I have seen in last couple of months is my daughter's teacher, Anika's teachers at the Gera have done something more than that. Miss Geeta, Miss Hetal, Miss Christabel, Miss...
Sorry, I don't know why this is happening. Are you seeing only half a person?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll just go.
So you have to increase the window size.
Okay, let me try opening the video separately.
Hello. So I want to share something very nice with you all today. When we talk about teachers in school, most common thing is yes, they teach our kids, they
Is that okay?
learn science, maths, English, history, biology from the teachers. That's what they do. But what I have seen in last couple months is my daughter's teacher, Anika's teachers at the Gera, have done something more than that. Miss Geeta, Miss Hetal, Miss Christabel, Miss Charlene, you all, I can't imagine how you do this.
Okay, someone is saying that's still half.
It's not only about learning math, science, English, any other.
Ms. Charlene, are you still seeing half?
Yes, sir.
So what did you say I have to do?
So maybe on this view, instead of increasing it to full view, you can just see it as a.
Okay.
You just put the way you did it before and press play. Instead of increasing the window, it will be fine in just that much of space.
Like
language
this?
Or music, dance.
Now
It's
you
not
seeing
like
full?
that. You all have been.
Yes. Yes, sir, it's full.
What I have seen in last couple months is my daughter's teacher, Anika's teachers at the Gera, have done something more than that. Miss Geeta, Miss Hetal, Miss Christabel, Miss Charlene, you all, I can't imagine how you do this. It's not only about learning math, science, English, any other language, or music, dance. It's not like that. You all have been teaching them to be empathetic, teaching them to learn to live the life, to handle situations. We had this experience in last 1 month. Obviously, it was a very sad situation where there was a COVID positive case, but from that we came to know how much all this has helped, all the life skills and all that have been taught by teachers, small things which we don't usually come to see about it. My husband tested positive 4 weeks back for COVID, and we had to put him in isolation. Then Anika had a minor brush with COVID. I was isolated because I started showing some symptoms. Luckily, did not test positive. But during all those weeks, Anika, we were worried for her, but surprisingly, she took it so well. She spoke about her emotions with her teachers during the class. Teachers knew what she was going through. She was alone in one room. I was alone in the other room. Her father was isolated in another room. So they knew that Anika had minimum contact with us. Still, they spoke to her, they helped her. Meanwhile, she also took it so well that, my teachers have taught me about empathy. We talk about taking care of each other. There's small gestures which make our time easy. Anika would sit outside her room and read us book, some story. Or she will cut fruits for us. She'll make nice fruit salad and leave it outside the room and then tell us that, I'm leaving the fruits for you outside. So once I go, you can come and take it, enjoy it. She'll slip through the door, tiny cards that she'll make for us, get well soon cards. I did not teach all of that. I did not tell her to do it for me. When she sees things at home, yes, obviously she does, but that is not just us. That is the teachers. Miss Charlene, when you talk about emotions, that every emotion is spared, that's what helped her. You taught her that it's okay to be scared. You taught her that it's okay to sometimes be sad. She handled it so well. Miss Geeta, Miss Hetal, Miss Christabel, you guys spoke to her throughout this weeks and you told her that it's fine. Your parents are going to be fine. You are going to be fine. You guys taught her what is empathy. You did not tell her to do it in just last 3 weeks. I know you have been talking to them. When you teach them science and you teach them about life processes, I was listening to them saying, you know, you guys was telling them that, you know, we have to live with the nature. We have to learn to be empathetic. We have to learn to care. That all is coming into life. I can see that it is not just that maths and science they are learning, it is everything. And I cannot thank you all for this enough. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so as you saw, we took some from pre-primary, we took some from primary, we took from the middle school. At that time, middle school. Now he's in grade 9. I couldn't put all, but we've got you know, sprinkling across all sections. And so while you know, someone like Miss Madra will not be mentioned because unfortunately she has the job of saying, pay your fee, pay your fee, pay your fee for those who don't pay. Or Mr. Siddesh or Jonathan, or you know, all the others who work in the background, like our housekeeping stuff. Some of us don't get thanked, but it's not that we do any less work. As you know, I'm sure maybe these people didn't say them to you. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Maybe other people in your class have not done. So it was good to see, say, not only the you know, the life skill, the English, but even someone like the Hindi teacher. And that goes across sections. I know there are lots of parents who tell me, oh, today's art, my child will come to school because she will fight with me, but she says today's art, so I have to go to school. Or there's PE, or there's music, or there's dance, right? So it's very important that you understand that your work makes a difference and you are doing good work. May I recall the, before we close, I'll end on, I don't know if you've still got the card that I gave the teachers before school closed at the end of March. And when I wrote those cards, I think I started about 10 days before, so I would do 4 or 5 a day. And the thing that I would sit down with each card and say, okay, what has this person done? And I try to recall everything, not only from my perspective, but from what I'd heard from others. And whatever I put down in that card was meant 100%. I never flatter to deceive. I don't, okay, a white lie here and there we all have to sometimes do, especially when we're dealing with kids, for example, or even with adults, but those were no white lies that I wrote in the card. It was time to tell you through the certificate that we gave you, that the school gave you, and the card that you got, that your work is valued, your work is appreciated, and you're a very important part of this. It's not just this organization, the whole community. I think you do valuable work, whether you're an admin, whether you are in teaching, whether you're a nurse, whether you're the support staff. We all do great work. Not that it can't be greater, but right now I think it's the time to say that our work makes a difference. So if you're looking for motivation, and if you're looking to say, does my work make a difference? You've got it right here, right? I could play many, many more testimonials, but we'd be watching videos till the time school opens. If I had to, you know, call and get testimonials from every kid, and there are 40 and now 180, 84. If I had each of them for a video, we'll only be watching videos for the whole session. But if ever proof were needed, then you have, right? And so you must know that